Hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So this is lecture number 4. So let's start. So first we will look up to the basics. Like here you can see that a wave is being shown up to you. So it is traveling along an axis. We know that upper peak is called the crest, and when it changes in the lower side, that lower peak we call it trough, and corresponding we calling it height of this from crest to trough we call it height of wave, and the corresponding amplitude, that means area under the half of the wave. I mean to say that half of the wavelength, that is pi area, is actually called the amplitude. How much this area it will occupy, that means more the height of the wave, more the area under this, and more would be the amplitude. We will deal also this in the next slide. Okay, so let's move ahead. So we know that the sound waves we know loudness. Okay, so much loud voice means that it has a high amplitude. Okay, and in the if we compare it with the light, then low amplitude and high amplitude light means low amplitude means red has a low amplitude, and a high amplitude means you are sounding loud, that means it has high amplitude, and in the light it will fall near to the blue region. Okay, now we let's talk about pitch of the sound waves. You know that pitch? If no, then let's see over here. Okay, so yeah, this is high frequency sound, means per second the oscillation is changing its per moment or per unit of time. So this change is very fast, while in the high wavelength or say low frequency it is very low. Okay, so high frequency wave we call it shriller sound. The pitch here I am talking about, having same amplitude. The amplitude will be same. Now here the variation is in terms of frequency, that the high frequency or the low frequency. So high frequency will sound shriller, but the low frequency will sound flattened. Okay, flatter sound. Okay, now let's talk about electromagnetic radiation. Okay, so what is electromagnetic radiation? We know very well. Okay, that it is the perpendicular oscillation of the electric and magnetic field. Okay, so in electromagnetic radiation, the energy is actually transferred from the electric and magnetic field. Okay, the energy is transferred via electric and magnetic field, while at the same time if we look up at the sound waves, then energy is transferred through vibration of the particles of the medium where that sound waves is actually propagating. Okay, for example, usually we talk among our friends, then whatever we say, whatever our sound is, it propagates in air and it reaches to the other people. How it reaches? It reaches by vibration of the particles or molecules which are actually present in the air. Due to the vibration of those molecules or the particles, the other people standing opposite of you will be able to hear you whatever you are speaking. So basic thing that I want to tell you, that the medium actually plays the role, and in the medium we have air. In the air we have the particles or the molecules, and due to the vibration of those particles, other people would be able to hear what you are actually speaking. Okay, Now let's talk about water waves. So in water, how the waves are generated, we know that upon pelting a stone over the water, the waves are automatically generated. Now how this water waves actually transfer the energy? Okay, how? Think how? And I'm giving you the answer. The answer is through the vibration of the water molecules. How? Since as I had already said, like in the air, it is the medium by which we can communicate, we can hear the other people's sound. So the medium actually playing the important role. So in air, the particle actually vibrate. Similarly, in water, the water molecules actually vibrate, because of which the energy of the water waves get passed, or say get transferred. Okay, because the vibration along the OH and OH bond will transfer the energy. As the waves are generated, these vibrations will get automatically facilitated, and eventually it will transfer the energy. Okay. Now here you can see that in the left hand side, what the wave is being shown up to you, having low amplitude, because the height of the wave is low. Okay, or say the area under the pi region, or the half of the complete wave region, the area is comparatively very low. While at the same time, if you look up at the right hand side wave, the area under the half of the wave is comparatively much higher than the left hand side. That's why here I am saying that it has a high amplitude. Okay, so actually what I want to say here, that in the case of the water, if we will take the example, then high amplitude means the height of the wave is high, and that means it has actually occupied a lot of water, or say a large amount of water. That means a large number of molecules, water molecules are there. That means because of which a lot of vibrations are taking place. That is why it is actually transferring that much amount of energy. So what eventually the results we came up, that more the number of particles in the wave, more will be the magnitude. More will be the number of the particles, more will be the magnitude, and here we can eventually occurs to these two results, that is energy actually proportional to the amplitude. At the same time intensity, that means more the number of particles in the wave, higher will be the height of the wave, and higher will be the amplitude. So that the relation which comes out is that intensity of the wave is actually proportional to the square of the amplitude of the wave. Alright, now one more thing, that energy is also proportional to the amplitude. Okay, so these are the two conclusions. That means if amplitude increases, that means more number of molecules are there in the wave, the higher would the energy, as well as higher would be the intensity of the wave. Alright, okay, now all this I have set the stage for the things which are actually coming onwards, because now I am going to start the photoelectric effect. That has been given by Albert Einstein. Okay, so now let's start the photoelectric effect. So in the photoelectric effect, we have a metal surface. Okay, for your convenience, we have a metal. Now a light source, from a light source, a light is coming and shattering down over the metal surface. Okay, and we know that metals is actually composed of electrons. Metal is actually composed of electrons, or say in the metal surfaces the electrons are there. And now light, light has some energy. Light has some energy, so it will transfer some amount of energy over the metal, and the metal will emit the electron. This could be the principle. Okay, and the electron will eject. After ejecting out of the metal, it would be having some kinetic energy, which actually will be recorded or being reported over the screen, or say detector's screen, which has been put down in the right side. Okay, now when this experiment has been conducted, what were the expectations which scientists were expected? So according to the classical theory, because before this no theory more than classical theory was there. Okay, so according to the classical theory, what the results were expected, now have a look over it. Since what we know that wave's amplitude actually affects the energy as well as intensity. If amplitude is higher, then energy of the wave would be higher and intensity of the wave would be higher. Now what the results were expected, that if we change the intensity, that means if we change the amplitude of the wave, try to coordinate with me, if we change the amplitude of the wave, or say if we change the energy of the wave, or say the intensity of the wave, it will change the kinetic energy of the emitted electrons from the metal, because more the energy of the wave that will be going to fall down over the metal, higher the energy, higher it will transmit the energy to the electron, and if the electrons will ejected out, and the extra amount of energy will reappear as its kinetic energy, and higher would be the energy of the incident wave or the light, higher would be the kinetic energy. Let me elaborate this with an example. Okay, so assume we have 5 joule energy of light which has been incident over the metal surface to eject an electron of 5 joule energy. Okay, so this light will eject out 5 joule when it will transfer 5 joule of energy to the metal will emit 1 electron of 5 joules of energy. Okay, now if we have a 10 joule of energy of light, there is another light which have 10 joules of energy, and when it will fall over the, or say incident over the surface, then electrons will ejected out by 5 joule of energy, by absorbing 5 joule of energy, and the extra 5 joule of energy will reappear or will appear in terms of kinetic energy of electron. Okay, it will appear in terms of kinetic energy of electron. And what I want to say, and at the same time, if we will take the 20 joule of energy of light, then by absorbing 5 joule of energy, the electrons will ejected out, and the kinetic energy will appear at 15 joule energy. So that means the more of the energy of the incident wave, more will be the kinetic energy. Let me repeat it again, that more would be the energy of the incident light, more would be the kinetic energy. So this was the result that was expected from the classical theory. Okay. Now the second thing, that if we have a less amplitude or less energy light, for example less than 5 energy light, then there would be a time lapse. It means until and unless the electron will not absorb exact 5 joule of energy, it will not eject out. That means it will retain up to gain 5 joule of energy, it will stop, it will not ejected out. Okay, and one more thing, that before this photoelectric effect, there was no concept of a relation between the frequency and energy. Okay, it was envisaged that there is no relation of the energy with the frequency. There is no relation of the energy with the frequency. So it was the classical expectations too. Okay, now let's see the observations, because whatever the expectations we've had are completely dependent over the classical theory. But now what we observed after the experiment, the first observation was that the existence of the threshold frequency, or we call it threshold energy, the existence of the threshold energy. Let me define it, that it is the minimum amount of energy which you must to give to electron to eject it out. You must have to give at least this amount of energy to the electron. Okay, so this was the observation, that there is a fixed amount of frequency of a light you must have to give if you want to eject out the electron, then that would be necessary. And if you are giving the energy or the frequency, here I'm specifically talking about frequency. If you are giving the frequency less than the threshold frequency, then no ejection will take place. No ejection of electrons will occur. Okay, now the second thing which comes out, that the higher the frequency than the threshold frequency, it will eject out the electron. Higher the frequency than the threshold frequency, it will eject out the electron, and the ejection of the electrons will be accompanied by some amount of kinetic energy. Okay, I will talk about it. This is the extra amount of energy. Here now has been proved that there is a strong correlation between the frequency and the energy, and I will also talk about it later. But try to understand that the electrons are now ejected. Electrons are now being ejected, and this ejected electrons will possess some amount of kinetic energy, and that energy is the result of the frequency or the energy of the incident light. Now I am talking about both energy and frequency, because after the experiment we had found there is a correlation between the energy and frequency, and it was the direct correlation, and you know the relation very well, that E equals to NH nu, or say for one photon E equals to H nu. Alright. Okay, now from here the classical theory is now being failed, or now start seeming like failed. Okay, now the other thing, that emission is spontaneous, that the emission will not depends over the intensity, because in the classical phenomena we had seen that the intensity and the energy both were dependent over the amplitude, and if the amplitude is high or the amplitude is sufficient to eject out the electron will eject out. But in this experiment, what the observation was, that intensity of the light will not going to affect the ejection of the electron. So it is also the failure. Here you can see the failure of the classical, that intensity is actually not depending upon ejection of electron does not depending upon the intensity of the light. Okay, this is the second failure. Now what the thing I am talking about, kinetic energy. So I will let me show it by a graph. So here you can see by a graph that it comes out that kinetic energy and frequency graph, more would be the frequency of the incident light in the x-axis. In the x-axis there is a frequency, incident frequency of light. Okay, this is the incident frequency of the light, and in the y-axis there is a kinetic energy of the ejected or say emitted electrons. Okay, emitted electron. So there is some nu naught, which is actually the minimum frequency you want to eject out the electron, and then the frequency higher than the nu naught will cause some amount of kinetic energy, and the slope was calculated out, and it has we get the value as Planck's constant. So there was a quite good relation which comes out from E equals to NH nu. So for one photon equals to h nu. So we had found out the constant value, where by putting out this h value we got exactly the same answer. Okay, this was the very good thing that happened. Now the photoelectric current, nothing, it is like when the electrons would be emitted because of the light fall on the surface, then these electrons will be actually causing electrons is actually the current. Okay, electrons are actually the current, and this current has been developed by the photons, by the light is actually photon. So that is why we are calling it photoelectric current. Okay, and in the next video we will see what was the explanation that was given out by the Einstein, because so far what we had seen, we had dealt with the expected result from this experiment, and then we had seen that what were the observation of this experiment, and now in the next video we will see that what would be the explanation that was given out by the Albert Einstein, okay, by using Planck's hypothesis. Okay, so see you in the next video. So see you, bye bye.